Okay, so today we will be making a silent tier list. Starting with accuracy, shivs deal 3 additional damage. This card is really good with shivs. If you have a blade dance, or a cloak and dagger, anywhere between 2 and 3 shiv cards, this is very strong. So I will put this A tier for if you have shivs. Next card, acrobatics. Draw 3 cards, discard 1 card. This is an enabler for a lot of the silent cards. It's very easy to create an infinite if you have this card and some other cards. This works very well with Tough Bandage and the Tingsha relics. It's just overall a really good card. I'll put this in above accuracy. Adrenaline. Gain 1 energy and draw 2 cards. Exhaust. This is basically an tactician and a reflex in one card, but you can play it. It's very strong. There's no downside to this other than when you're fighting against the Watcher or against the Heart. Overall, this card is a must take if offered among the normal card rewards. If you fought against a boss, maybe there's a better option, but this is amazing. S tier. Next card, After Image. Whenever you play a card, gain 1 block. Upgraded, I believe it's innate. This is very good if you're playing a Shiv deck or an engine where you draw this card and use the tactician and reflexes to gain energy back. Overall, this is a really good blocking method if you have none. It's between A and S tier. I'll put it at the top of A tier. Okay, next card. Alchemize. Obtain a random potion. Exhaust. Upgraded, it cost 0. It's just a free potion. Usually you take this. Potions are a very good win condition. It doesn't work very well with Sozu and others, but overall it's a really good card. Usually you take this if offered. I'll put it below Adrenaline S tier though. Okay, next card, All Out Attack. Deal 10 damage to all enemies. Discard 1 card at random. All Out Attack is amazing AoE. Also upgraded, it does 14 damage. It's very stable damage. Really good early game card. I'll put it in top of B tier. Okay, next card, 1,000 Cuts. Whenever you play a card, deal 1 damage to all enemies. When upgraded, it deals 2 damage. Like I said, it's basically the same as After Image, where it works well with Shiv deck and with draw discard. If you try to create an infinite, this is your damage basically, unless you want to go eviscerate or choke. But this is a very good power if you're going those type of decks. Overall, it's below After Image since it's not as reliable as 1 block. I'll put it below Acrobatics. Okay, next card, Backflip. Gain 5 block, draw 2 cards. Backflip is very strong. It gives you 2 draw. And it gives you block. It works really well with the discard deck. It's a way to gain block because most discard decks don't have any unless you have After Image. It's a pretty reliable way to block. I'll put it above 1,000 cuts. Backstab. Innate, deal 11 damage, exhaust for 0 energy. If you see this first floor anywhere between the first act, you usually take this because everything in first act is a damage rush. It's a race between you and your enemy to see who can kill each other. This is an enabler for that. It's very nice to have early game. Other than that, it's very useless. I'll put this below all out attack. Yeah. Once you pass like Act 2, you do not want to take this card anymore because it'll fill up your deck with innates, and you would much rather have like Afterimage or any of these other cards than this in your starting hand. Okay, next card, Bane. Deal 7 damage. If the enemy has poison, deal 7 damage again for 1 energy. This does 1 more damage than a strike if you don't have poison. If you have poison, that's 14 damage, very strong. But usually don't use poison. It's worse than these cards. Overall, it's, if offered in the early game, you might take this. If you have a little bit of poison, you probably would take this. So I'll put it in the bottom of B tier. Now next card, Blade Dance. Add 2 shivs. This is wrong. It's supposed to be add 3 shivs into your hand. Shivs normally do 4 damage each. With accuracy, it's a lot more. Upgraded, it'll give 4 shivs. Overall, it's an insanely good damage card. 12 damage for 1 energy is very nice. Top of A tier. The next card, Blur. Gain 5 block. Block is not removed at the start of your next turn. Overall, this card is alright. If you have a lot of block for 1 round due to like some scaling or something, and you have a lot of blurs in play, you usually win the fight easily by having infinite amounts of block. Otherwise, you don't take this card because there's a lot better block options. So I'll put this B tier, above Backstab. Bouncing Flask. Apply 3 poison to a random enemy 3 times. Upgraded, it does it 4 times. This is basically the poison applier. It gets rid of artifact really quickly because it does it multiple times. This is the card to take if you're going to go into poison, because it's better than deadly poison by a lot. Because due to it applying 3 times, if you have like Sneckle Skull or something, it'll apply 4 poison each time it hits. Overall, it's a good poison card. I'll put it bottom of A tier. Bullet Time. You cannot draw additional cards this turn. Reduce the cost of all cards in your hand to 0 this turn. If you have a lot of draw and you don't have enough energy to play this, all the cards you draw, this might be good. Otherwise, it's completely useless. You're just taking up a draw for a useless card. Not very good. I guess I'll put it middle of B tier. It's better than Blur though. Okay, next card, Burst. This turn, your next skill is played twice. Overall, many of the cards Silent has are skills. Most of them are very strong, like Catalyst and I guess Blade Dance and Acrobatics. First, we'll definitely see some use if you use those skills. It works very well with the Silent. Upgraded, it does it your next 2 skills with Play Twice. Overall, it's very good. It also works well with Adrenaline. I'll put it around S tier. Better than Alchemize. Okay, next card. Calculated Gamble. Discard your hand, then draw that many cards. Exhaust. Upgraded, it does not exhaust anymore. Overall, it's a really good card if you're looking for some more draw. To get rid of the defense and strikes in your hand that you don't want. Sometimes it's good with Tactician and Reflex. Also good with Acrobatics. It's pretty good. It's around. It works well with these 3 cards. These 2 cards right here. Okay, next card. Caltrops. Whenever you are attacked, deal 3 damage back. This card, not very good. It's basically just a bronze skills. It's only good against certain types of enemies. For example, the birds that do multi-attacks, and the heart. Otherwise, this card is kind of useless. You might want to take this if you're going against a heart. Otherwise, it's C tier at best. Catalyst. Double the enemy's poison. If upgraded, it triples the enemy's poison. A very strong poison card. Usually the enabler for those poison decks. Overall, top of A tier. I'll put it around here because it's a damage dealer, definitely. Choke. Deal 12 damage. Whenever you play a card this turn, the enemy loses 3 HP. When upgraded, it's 5 HP. This card is very strong if you're going Shivs or draw deck. Otherwise, it's pretty bad. Though it is a sort of damage dealing if you don't have any scaling with your Shivs. So I'll put it in top of B tier. Now, Cloak and Dagger. Gain 6 block, add 1 Shiv into your hand. When upgraded, it adds 2 Shivs. It works well with the Shiv deck, with accuracy. And if you have like Shuriken or Kunai, it's pretty good. It's a way to gain block as well, but you would much rather have a Blade Dance if you're going those type of builds. So I'll put it top B tier. It's lower than Blade Dance, definitely. If you don't have enough block from the Blade Dances, if you don't have like Ornamental Fan, or you don't have an after image, I guess this could work for block. It's not very reliable. Okay, next card. Concentrate. Discard 3 cards. Gain 2 energy. Upgraded, I believe it is discard 2 cards. It's very good with the backflip and acrobatics type of deck, so it's pretty stable here. I'll put it around the middle of A tier because it is enabler for an infinite. If you're going this type of deck, it's very strong. Yeah. Okay. Next card, Corpse Explosion. Apply 6 energy. Apply 6 poison. When the enemy dies, deal damage equal to its max HP to all enemies. This card is very strong if you're going against multiple enemies at once. Overall, it's also a poison type of deck, but you can use it in another type of deck. It's just a very good AoE card. So overall, I'll put it around top of A tier. Okay, next card, Crippling Cloud. Apply 4 poison and 2 weak to all enemies. Exhaust. It's a very strong AoE card. Not only does it do damage, it also gains you block by weakening enemies. It's a very good artifact removal. Overall, I'll put it around top of B tier. It's between bottom of A tier and B tier for me. Okay, next card, Dagger Spray. Deal 4 damage to all enemies twice. It's very good with Akabeko and strength gain because it scales twice with strength due to it attacking twice. It's very good against AoE enemies. It's very good against the birds. Overall, I say it's around bottom of A tier. Next card, Dash. Gain 10 block, deal 10 damage. It's pretty good in early game. Otherwise, I would not take this if you have a deck already going. It's a B tier card for me. Middle of B tier. Okay, next card, Deadly Poison. Apply 5 poison. When upgraded, apply 7. This card is extremely average. I would much rather have a Balancing Flask if I was going poison. So I'll put it in C tier. Defend, you want to remove these as quick as possible, especially in the early game due to there being multiple races against elites where you have to do as much damage as possible. These defense do not help. Deflect, for 0 energy, gain 4 block. It's kinda useful, not very. It's good if you're going draw, but otherwise, if you don't have a good engine going, it's useless. I'll put it around top of B tier. Okay, next card, Die. Deal 13 damage to all enemies. Exhaust for 1 energy. This is very good damage to AoE enemies. If you get it in like the first few floors, you're pretty much set. It's insanely good damage early game. Otherwise, do not take this. I'll put it top of B tier or maybe bottom of A tier here. It's better than Dagger Spray, yeah. Okay, next card, Distraction. Add a random skill into your hand. It costs 0 this turn. Exhaust. It's basically just an Inferno Blade for skills. It's alright. It's not the best card, but if offered in the first few floors, you will not take this because just in case you fight against Gremlin Knob, this card will be the death of you. So I'll put this in around top of C tier. Next card, Dodge and Roll. Gain 4 block, next turn, gain 4 block. Okay, this card is a special one because it scales with footwork twice. It's a very good block method if you have footworks and such. Overall, I'll put it in around top of B tier. Better than Deflect for that reason. Doppelganger. Next turn, gain X cards and gain X energy. Exhaust. When upgraded, it gains +1 to all those values. Overall, this card is pretty average, but it's good in certain situations if you have like ice cream. So I'll put it in B tier. It's more useful than bullet time most of the time, so I'll put it here. Endless Agony. This card could be a way to deal damage. I once had a run where Endless Agony was the damage dealer for my deck. I also had a Glass Prism, and I was able to access Wrath with this. It's very strong in that situation. If you have multiple draw methods, this is amazing. Otherwise, kind of useless. It's not very good against the Time Eater, but Um, you you could make it work with finisher, otherwise it's pretty useless. Though it is a slightly better damage card than these. I'll put it around bottom of B tier. Okay, next card, Envenom. Whenever an attack deals unblocked damage, apply 1 poison. Upgraded, it is only 1 energy. This card works very well if you're going shivs or if you just have poison. It's really hard to get off. It's pretty expensive if unupgraded. If you already have a deck going, you usually don't want to take this unless you're lacking a lot of damage. It is scaling due to it dealing poison. Also, there's a unique interaction with Bane. If the enemy has no block or less block than the first attack, which is the deal 7 damage here, it will apply 1 poison, and since the enemy now has poison, it'll do the damage again, which is very interesting. Otherwise, it's pretty average. I'll put it around middle of B tier. Okay, next card, Escape Plan. Draw 1 card. If you draw a skill, gain 3 block. This is your variable draw. If you're going for a grand finale deck, it's basically a prepared, but you can't discard. It's a tiny way to gain block. It's not very reliable, but if you have mostly skills in your deck, this could be good, but otherwise it's pretty average. I'll put it middle of B tier. Here, Eviscerate. Very insane damage if you're going discard deck. This is your staple damage dealer, so I would definitely take this if you have a good deck going. This will be your damage for that kind of deck, so I'll put it top of A tier. Okay, Expertise. If you already have enough draw, this works very well with grand finale, by the way, because you can decide how much you want to draw. Otherwise, it also can save you from not going infinite. You can go infinite with this card basically if you have a few tacticians, acrobatics, and reflexes. Overall, this is a pretty good card if you have the deck for it. Otherwise, it's very terrible, so I'll put it bottom of A tier. Okay, next card we have is Finisher. Deal 6 damage for each attack played this turn. It's very strong with shivs, extremely strong with Endless Agony and such. This card scales very well with strength. Overall, it's a very good damage dealing, so I'll put it bottom of A tier. Flechettes. Deal 4 damage for each skill in your hand. This could be your damage, but there are many better options, for example Eviscerate and Shivs. But if you are lacking damage and you have good strength gain, this could be the card you take, so I'll put it in middle of B tier. Okay, Flying Knee. Deal 8 damage. Next turn, gain 1 energy. This card is basically Charge Battery for the defect, but it's instead damage. It is worse than the Charge Battery because it does not give you block. Most of the time, a block card for 7 rather than doing 8 damage is way more reliable. But if you get this in the early game, you usually just take this because it's a strike plus. I'll put it around here, bottom of B tier. Footwork. Gain 2 dexterity. When upgraded, it's gain 3. It's a very strong scaling card, but you do not want to take this early game because it's mostly a damage race in those cases, and you cannot afford to play any defense other than the maybe sentry fight, but otherwise this is in the late game very strong. Put a bottom of A tier, maybe even higher actually. I'll put it around here. Okay, glass knife. Deal 8 damage twice. Decrease the damage of this card by 2 this combat. When upgraded, I believe it does 12 damage. Very strong early game card. 24 damage if upgraded is very nice. I'll put it around top of B tier, because if you get this late game, you almost never take this because it's not worth it. Especially since it scales. It does not scale. It gets worse the later you go, because it decreases the damage of this card. Now, Grand Finale can only be played if there are no cards in your draw pile. Deal 50 damage to all enemies. It's a very strong AoE card. It's just a very strong AoE card. The condition is very hard to activate. You need variable draw, which means an expertise and prepared at acrobatics, so you can get through the 0 cards in your draw pile. If you can get this going, it's a very insane card. Otherwise, you never take this card. It's terrible. I'll put it middle B tier. Okay, next card we have here. Next card we have here is the Heal Hook. Deal 5 damage. If the enemy has weak, gain an energy and 1 card. This is similar to one of the cards in the Ironclad. Overall, it's sometimes a free strike, although it's kind of useless if you don't have good weakening. But luckily, you always start with a neutralize, and if you upgrade that neutralize, you mostly can get this off. Early game, it's pretty good. Late game, it might be good. It's not too good. I'll put it middle of B tier, around here. Okay, next card we have is Infinite Blades. At the start of your turn, add a shiv into your hand. Very terrible. You never take this card. I don't see much use for this. If you have a Blade Dance, it's much better to take that. I'll put this in the bottom of C tier. Basically, it's very bad. Okay, next card we have is Leg Sweep. Apply 2 weak and gain 11 block. It's a very strong defensive card. You usually take this. You can actually just take this whenever you want, if it's good with your deck. Overall, it's bottom of A tier here. The next card we have is Malaise. Enemy loses X strength and apply X weak. Exhaust. This card is very strong against those multi-attack enemies. Otherwise, it's just a waste of a card. But this is pretty useful against a heart and some final bosses. For example, the time meter is very strong. I'll put it top of A tier here. The next card we have is Masterful Stab. Cost 1 additional energy for each time you lose HP this combat, dealing 12 damage for 0 energy. Very strong early game card. It's basically a backstab, but you can use it multiple times. If you don't take any damage in the early game, this is very strong. I'll put it middle of B tier here. The next card we have is Neutralized. Deal 3 damage, apply 1 weak. When upgraded, it's 4 damage and 2 weak. You start with this card in your deck, and you never want to remove it because it's very useful. It deals damage for 0 energy, and it also gains you block by weakening enemies. Overall, it's a very good card. I'll put it middle of B tier. Okay, next card we have is Nightmare. Choose a card. Next turn, add 3 copies of that card into your hand. Exhaust. Okay, this card is very niche. It works sometimes when you have poison. For example, you can combo it with Catalyst, the card that doubles or triples your poison here. Otherwise, if also you really need OLED plans for this card. Otherwise it's very bad. I'll put it around where the other rares are, so like middle of B tier. It's very niche. Okay, next card, Noxious Fumes. At the start of your turn, apply 2 poison to all enemies. This card is very average. I do not like to take this. It's very slow scaling. I can do much more with 1 energy, I feel like, so I'll put this bottom of C tier around where the Caltrops is. Okay, next card we have is Outmaneuver. Next turn, gain 2 energy. It's also very niche. It's good with Unseasoned Top, but otherwise I don't see much use for this. It also combos well with the next card we have, which is Phantasma Killer. It's alright. I'll still put it top of C tier, because I don't think it's better than any of these cards, especially since it's a skill and enemies in the early game really dislike you using skills. So yeah, I'll put it at top of C tier. Next card we have is Phantasma Killer. Next turn, your attacks deal double damage. The energy cost here is wrong. It's supposed to be 1. When upgraded, it is 0 cost. This card is very strong. It's a form of scaling, of making your attacks do double damage. It works very well with well-laid plans to save all your attack cards for later when this Phantasma Killer activates. Overall, it's top of A tier type of card. Okay, next card we have is Piercing Well. All enemies lose 6 strength this turn. Exhaust. This is a very good defensive card. Unfortunately, it does not work when the enemy has a lot of artifact. It's very strong against the birds with their multi-attacks. It's also very strong against the Bucka Stabbing. Overall, it's a very good defensive card. It works well with 2 of the 3 first act bosses. You usually want to take this if you see those 2 act bosses, for example the Hexaghost or the Guardian. You take this early game always if you see those bosses. So very good defensive card. I'll put it top of A tier, around here. Okay, next card we have is Poison Stab. Deal 6 damage, apply 3 poison. It's a strike plus, and it also works well with poison. Unfortunately, it's very average. It's alright of a strike plus. I'll put it in the same tier as Bane. It's a little bit higher though because it does more damage if you don't have poison. So I'll put it mid B tier. Okay, next card we have is Predator. Deal 15 damage. Next turn, draw 2 additional cards for 2 energy. This card is pretty strong. The draw 2 cards is always good. It's very strong against the sentries because it gains the 2 draw. Overall, it's an okay card. It also works good with Nikolai. I'll put it mid B tier as well. Okay, next card we have is Prepared. Draw 1 card, discard 1 card. Upgrade it draws 2 cards, and discard 2 cards. This card is very strong if you're going for a discard deck. You have a few reflexes and a tacticians. This card will most likely comboed with acrobatics will get you an infinite, so it's pretty good. It's not very good early game against some of these elites, but overall it's pretty stable card in these type of architects. Okay, next card we have is Quick Slash. Deal 8 damage, draw 1 card. It's a pretty good strike plus. It's not a lot of damage, but if you see this early game, you usually take this, so I'll put it, it's better than Fly Knee, so I'll put it here. Okay, next card we have is Dagger Throw. Deal 9 damage, draw 1 card, and discard 1 card. Okay, this card is basically a prepared, but also a damage card. This works very well because it discards. It combos with the discard deck, so this is basically a replacement for Eviscerate actually, but it's not as good, so I'll place it around bottom, mid to bottom of A tier. Okay, next card we have is Reflex. If this card is discarded from your hand, draw 2 cards. This is wrong here, and if upgraded, it's 3 cards. It's unplayable. This card works very well in the archetype I just talked about. If you want to try to go infinite, it works well with acrobatics, prepared, dagger throws, all of the above. It's very strong. You usually take this if you have a few of those. So I'll put it around middle of A tier, middle of A tier. Okay, next card we have is Riddle with Holes. Deal 3 damage 5 times. When upgraded, it's 4 damage 5 times, I believe. Overall, this card is very average, but if you have strength gain, it could be a take, but otherwise, you never take this. It's a very bad card. In some niche situations, it works good. For example, the birds, but otherwise, it's very terrible. Especially since some enemies have like malleable. This card is very bad against them, so I'll put this card around middle of B tier. The next card we have is Setup. Put a card from your hand on top of your draw pile. Cost 0 until played. Okay, so if you have an expensive card, for example in Wraith form, and you want to save it for next turn, this card is very strong. It also works like a Welly plans basically. You can combo it with like Nightmare or the Catalyst. It's very niche. It's not as good as Welly plans, but it could work out sometimes. You usually never take this if you get offered the Welly plans, but I'll consider putting it in a higher placement, but right now I think this is bottom of B tier. And next card we have is Skewer. Deal 7 damage X times. I mean, this card is okay. It's a multi-attack card. There's nothing really special about it. Other than being an X cost card, it works kind of well with Chemical X, I believe. It's not very that good, but you could take this early game, so I'll put this bottom of B tier. Okay, next card we have is Slice. Deal 5 damage for 0 cost. It's basically a deflect, but an attacking card. It's alright. I won't place it that high. It's kind of good if you have a lot of draw, but you don't really want to take this anyways, so I'll put this bottom of B tier. Okay, next card we have is Sneaky Strike. Deal 10 damage. If you have discarded a card this turn, gain 2 energy. This is another replacement for Eviscerate if you have a discard deck, but This card is harder to get off because you need 2 energy before you use it to actually be able to use this card. So I'll put it bottom of A tier. Here. Okay, next card we have is Storm of Steel. Discard your hand, add 1 Shiv into your hand for each card discarded. Usually it's for 1 energy, and when upgraded, it's 1 Shiv plus card. Overall, it's a very good Shiv. Really good for Shivs. I'll put it around top of B tier. Not that good. Okay, Strike. The normal Strike, it's a little bit better than Defend, but also you want to get rid of these as fast as possible, so I'll put it in D tier, but above the Defend, obviously. Okay, next card we have is Sucker Punch. Deal 7 damage, apply 1 week. It's basically a neutralize. Upgraded, I believe it deals 9 damage in 2 week. Overall, it's just another Strike plus. I'll put it in bottom of B tier. Okay, next card we have is Survivor. Gain a block, discard 1 card. This card starts in your deck. It's very strong most of the time. I'll say it's, you don't want to remove this, so I'll say it's around middle of B tier as well. Okay, next card we have is Tactician. I believe this is slightly better than Reflex because it allows you to go infinite easierly. I mean, more easy here. So I'll put this around mid A tier. Next card we have is Terror. Apply 99 vulnerable, exhaust. Upgraded is 0 cost. This is very good if you plan to do any attack damage. It basically increases your damage output by 50%. If you ask me, I believe this is around top of A tier. Okay, next card we have is the Tools of the Trade. At the start of your turn, draw 1 card and discard 1 card. When upgraded, it costs 0. Problem with this card is it's a power, and it only works next turn. It basically acts like a slimed. In the first turn you draw it, it's pretty useless, but if you get lucky and maybe get it on your first turn, it could have some value. Otherwise, it's very useless, so I'll put it mid B tier. Better than these cards for sure. Put it there. Okay, next card we have is Unload. Deal 14 damage. Discard all non-attack cards in your hand. It's an alright card if you are lacking a lot of damage. It also works slightly with the discard synergy. Overall, it's a stable card, I guess. I'll put it bottom of A tier. Okay, next card we have is Welly Plans. At the end of your turn, retain up to 1 card. I believe it's supposed to be 1 cost energy, but upgraded it goes up to 2 cards. It's a very strong card. It's not that niche because you can combo it with a lot of other stuff. For example, Phantasma Killer and Catalyst. I'll put it mid B tier, mid A tier. Okay, last card we have is Wraith Form. Gain 2 intangible. At the end of your turn, lose 1 dexterity. Okay, intangible works by making all damage you take turn into 1. When Wraith Form is upgraded, it gives you 3 intangible. The problem is most fights take around 4 turns to beat. But if you draw on your second turn, I guess you can use it. Though you waste 3 energy. The fact is, this card is very strong. It trivializes some fights, so I believe this deserves to be an S tier. The problem is it doesn't work really well against multi-attack enemies because It only reduces it to 1 damage. Yeah, I think it's bottom of S tier. I might move Phantasma Killer to S tier too. Yeah, okay. So this is the final tier list. I'll zoom out. If you have any objections or any suggestions and changes I should make, feel free to share in the comments. Thank you for watching, and this is my tier list for the silent cards.